Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, The History Carnival with Akshaj. As we have seen in the last two videos, World War I and the expansionist policies of Adolf Hitler caused World War II. It was the most destructive war in human history. It caused a lot of death and destruction everywhere. But what were its major events and impacts? Let's understand them in today's video.
In the last video, we saw that Hitler was expanding his boundaries aggressively. After winning Czechoslovakia and Austria, he eyed Poland. That alarmed Britain and France because that would bring Hitler to their doorstep. Britain and France declared that if Poland were attacked, they would declare war on Germany. But before attacking Poland, Hitler signed the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact with the Soviet Union in August 1939, in which they agreed not to invade each other and also secretly decided to divide Poland amongst themselves so that Russia wouldn't intervene when Poland was attacked. On 1st September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Shortly, Britain and France joined in. This marked the start of World War II. Thereafter, Germany invaded the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and France. The British and French were losing against the Germans. Large numbers of Belgian, British, and French troops were surrounded and cut off by the Germans. In 1940, 338,000 Allied soldiers were evacuated from the French town of Dunkirk. After this evacuation, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill gave the famous speech, "We shall fight on the beaches," in which he vowed to fight the Nazis. On 22nd June 1940, France signed an armistice with Germany, and on 25th June, it was occupied. After France, Hitler turned his attention to Britain. On 4th July, the Battle of Britain started with the Canal Kampf, the air battle over the English Channel between the Royal Air Force and the Luftwaffe. During the Battle of Britain, many air raids were conducted by the Germans in British cities, especially London. 1,542 people were killed and the destruction was a lot. The people had to find shelters underground, like in subway tunnels. Eventually, Britain won the Battle of Britain due to many factors like motivation and the ability of RAF planes to shoot down enemy planes faster than they could be rebuilt. Hitler then decided to invade the Soviet Union due to his hatred of Slavs and communists, violating the Non-Aggression Pact. On 22nd June 1941, he invaded the Soviet Union. The invasion of the Soviet Union was also known as Operation Barbarossa. In this war, the Soviets won by letting them intrude deep inside their territories in freezing cold with evacuated and ruined cities, leaving no food and fuel for the Germans. This dispirited the German army. Germany had the edge earlier, but the Battle of Stalingrad became a turning point in World War II. This battle was fought in the Russian city of Stalingrad. The Soviets forced the German tanks down impassable streets and then trapped the infantry behind them. Finally, the German army surrendered to the Soviet Union. This is an example of how history repeats itself, as Napoleon committed the same mistake during his Russian campaign in 1812. Meanwhile, the USA did not want to join the war and wanted to stay neutral, but it supplied the Allies with arms and ammunition. When the Japanese Empire invaded China in 1937, the USA put an embargo on it and stopped exporting oil to Japan. In response, on 7th December 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base of Pearl Harbor in Oahu, Hawaii to cripple the US naval fleet. The US suffered a huge loss. This caused the US to declare war on Japan on 8th December and join World War II. With the US joining, the Allies got strong support and were able to beat the Axis powers. On 6th June 1944, 150,000 Allied troops landed on 5 beaches on the coast of Normandy in France. They slowed the German advance by blowing up bridges, roads, and railways across the region, eventually defeating them and liberating France. This became another turning point in World War II and marked the beginning of its end. By 1945, the Allies had reached Germany. Britain, France, and the US came from the west, while the Soviets came from the east. In Italy, the fascist dictator and friend of Hitler, Benito Mussolini, was killed by rebels called partisans on 28th April. To avoid being captured or killed like Mussolini, Hitler committed suicide on 30th April. With Hitler dead, the Germans had to surrender on 8th May, which marked the end of World War II in Europe. Thereafter, Germany was divided into 4 occupation zones between the French, British, Americans, and Soviets. Later, the British, Americans, and French merged their zones to establish the capitalist West Germany, while the Soviets established the communist East Germany. The capital Berlin was divided between the East and the West. The war between Japan and the US was still going on. Japan was not giving up so easily. To defeat them, the US decided to make an atomic bomb. They started a program called the Manhattan Project, in which they assembled a group of scientists to develop an atomic bomb. It included some famous scientists like Albert Einstein and Julius Robert Oppenheimer. On 16th July, the first atomic bomb was tested in Alamogordo, New Mexico. This event was known as the Trinity Test. With the atomic bomb developed, the US threatened Japan to surrender, but when Japan refused, US decided to bomb Japan. On 6th August, the Americans first bombed the Japanese city of Hiroshima, and then on 9th August, they bombed Nagasaki. 70,000 to 135,000 people died in this attack. This forced Japan to surrender on 2nd September 1945, thereby ending World War II. The people who survived were known as the Hibakusha. They formed an organization called Nihon Hidankyo, which got a Nobel Prize this year for its aims to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons. World War II caused a lot of destruction in the countries involved in it. An estimated 4 crore to 5 crore died in it. You can see the death count per country in this data. In the data here, you can see that the Soviet Union had the highest death count of all the nations who were involved in the Second World War. Before World War II, Britain and France were the world superpowers. However, due to World War II, the power shifted from them to the US and Soviet Union. The West became influenced by the capitalist US, while the East became influenced by the communist Soviet Union. Thus started the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the US and the Soviet Union. Many military alliances were established, like the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was formed to stop Soviet expansionism. In response, the Warsaw Pact was created to stop NATO and strengthen the Soviet influence in the East. It lasted until the Soviet Union fell in 1991. World War II weakened many colonial powers like the British Empire. After the war, many colonies like India and the African colonies became independent. Not only colonialism but imperialism was also impacted. Empires like the Japanese Empire and Nazi Germany collapsed due to World War II. World War II also had many advances. For example, radar was developed to detect targets. Others include the atomic bomb, anti air warfare, and penicillin, an antibiotic that was accidentally invented by Alexander Fleming. After Germany's defeat, the Jews were liberated from the concentration camps. Due to their persecution in World War II, they needed their own country where they could be safe. In 1948, the British gave them some land in Palestine, which was a mandate under the British. The Jews settled there as they believed that it was their original homeland. Thus, the nation of Israel was born. However, the Arabs and Jews started having land disputes between themselves. Even today, Israel and Palestine fight for land. World War II caused much devastation and death in its wake. Not only that, but war crimes were also committed. For example, the Holocaust by the Nazis and the atrocities done by the Japanese in their occupied territories. To avoid another world war, the United Nations organization was established on 24th October 1945. It also ensures that no violation of human rights happens. Before it, the League of Nations was established after World War I with the same goal, but it failed when World War II started and was dissolved in 1946 with its powers and functions transferred to the UNO. After World War II, many Nazis were tried for their war crimes by the victorious Allies in the German city of Nuremberg. 7 were imprisoned and 11 were executed. Also, Germany expressed its collective guilt by apologizing for its atrocities against Jews and building memorials and museums to commemorate them, like the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin. They also stand for spreading awareness about human rights.
Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video to be interesting and informative. To know more about World War II, you can visit BBC History Extra and School History, or watch movies and series like Hitler and the Nazis, Evil on Trial and Dunkirk. You can even read books like Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank and The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. We will meet in the next video. Till then, bye bye.